To me, what Rainmaker is doing is creating a Robinhood type experience for the average user.
As we climb out of the bear market hibernation and we look towards the bull market, which I and many others believe will probably happen in the second part of 2024, leading into 2025, it's time that we start to think about mass adoption. Because up to this point, crypto's still been something that's kind of underground or still not proven. However, if you listen to More Than Blockchain, or if you're in crypto or NFTs or Bitcoin, you know that that's not true. On the last episode, I talked about how the institutions are coming. And on this episode, I sit down with Chris Love from Rainmaker, who, as he said in the intro, is creating a product that hopes to serve kind of like the Robinhood app, which did for traditional finance what Rainmaker is hoping to do for decentralized finance. As we move towards the next bull run, having products with UX and UI that are going to be able to onboard the masses is going to be key. Because on this next bull run, we may not be onboarding millions, we may be onboarding billions. So let's dive in and learn about what makes Rainmaker so special. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is More Than Blockchain. Chris, welcome to More Than Blockchain. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for hopping on. Today, we're going to talk about wallets, and wallets are a fun thing because I do believe that wallets are one of the biggest barriers to mass adoption. And after looking at Rainmaker and some of the stuff you guys are doing, I feel like you may be solving some problems. So without much to do, please let's hop into Rainmaker and talk to me a little bit about how you got tied in with the project, your background in Web3, and then you can kind of give me the elevator pitch for Rainmaker.
Yeah, thank you so much. So my name is Chris. I'm head of marketing and partnerships at Rainmaker. I've been in crypto since about 2017. So I got in right before the 2018 bull run. And, everything is like everybody else. Everything was going crazy. And I was like, what is this? Just like, let me put my money somewhere, right? And then obviously it crashed down and I was like, what was that? And so I just started looking online and I started being like, what is this Bitcoin thing? What is that all about? And so I really just started doing my 10,000 hours, like what is Bitcoin? Why is it important to the world? A lot of Saifedean Dean and Andreas Antonopoulos and things like that, just hours and hours and hours and figuring this thing out. And, I love Bitcoin, but I really started diving into like DeFi and the different protocols and things like that. So you might call me a DeFi Degen, but yeah. So, a couple months ago, I was cruising on LinkedIn and I saw Rainmaker had just graduated from Y Combinator. And I was like, okay, let me go talk to these guys and see if there's any sort of synergy or any way that I can help out. And so, I really was just one of the first members in the Discord and started helping in every way I can. And so today, I really help with just different partnerships, sponsorships, things like that with Twitter influencers and help out with customer service. We're a really small team currently, but we're building the Rainmaker wallet and it's a very new concept. So taking it one day at a time.
Yeah, I love that. And just to hop on something you said in the end there, you said you were a small team. And I was just talking today about an episode I saw on, and it's weird that I call shout out another podcast on my podcast, but Tom Balayu had, and I'm really blanking on these guys' names and I really shouldn't, but I will leave the episode in the show notes. They were talking about how, years ago, right, in the industrial age, you needed thousands of people to get $1 billion company. Now, also we know because of currency devaluation, $1 billion wasn't the same. But let's say a $100 or $200 million company 300 years ago. And then they were like, the computers changed that. And then social media changed that. And then they were like, well, the people who started Instagram, that was a 13-person team. And now they sold it for $2 billion to Facebook. And they were like, well, now that we have ChatGPT and AI and all of these different tools to help efficiency, they're like the next $1 billion, their thesis is kind of like the next $1 billion company is going to be built by a team of 3 or smaller. Or in and around there, right? We won't crack double digits. So I think a small team is totally cool. And, you can get a lot done, especially now with different types of tools. And so, okay, you also got in 2017. I also got in 2017. For people who listen to More Than Blockchain, they probably heard me say that a bunch of times. My question for you as a DeFi Degen or someone who got in 2017, what was the coin that got you in?
Ethereum. So I had a friend, he was like, "Hey man, have you ever heard about crypto or do you do Bitcoin at all?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "You should get some Ethereum." And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about." Meanwhile, Ethereum is $30, right? And so I turn around and it's 900. And I'm like, oh, that guy might have known what he was talking about. And so that's kind of what got me in. And then from there, I didn't know what I was doing. So I was just kind of throwing money at like whatever project I saw in like Facebook groups and stuff, which is the easiest way to get wrecked. But yeah, so, I learned my lesson during that bull cycle and then really capitalized between 2018 and 2020.
That's great to hear. I learned a lot of lessons in 2017, and then I fell asleep for 2018 and 2019 and woke back up in 2020. And that is not the way to approach a bear market. This is financial advice for people listening. If you are in a bear market, you do not want to hibernate. That's where we are now, which is a great segue into the builders market. And so you were like, okay, these guys were with Y Combinator. That's a very serious co-signing in tech in general, but definitely Web3. So you see them and you're like, this is crazy. I want to be near this project, start hopping in Discord. And now obviously you're rocking and rolling, marketing and partnerships for them. What is it about Rainmaker? And this is kind of like, I'm asking you to take off your Rainmaker hat and just speak to me as though you're someone talking about a product. What is it about Rainmaker that you think is the separator? It's the unique thing that's going to, separate them from the pack of other people. Because not a lot of people, that's hyperbolic, but there are many projects out there that are trying to figure out the wallet conundrum.
Yes. So what I really thought was crazy about Rainmaker is they're doing something that no other wallet that I know of is doing. So traditionally, we use EOAs, externally owned accounts. So that's your MetaMask wallet, it's your Rabby wallet. You sign a transaction and it can either be great or all of your funds can get sucked out or whatever it may be, or you're degenning into DeFi and you have to send a coin to a certain address. You have to go across chains. You have to stake it to a protocol. Meanwhile, you're signing gas fees of $30 to $50 every single transaction that you're doing it. So there's this new concept that Ethereum came out with called E84 And so what that did, it's account abstraction. And the idea is that it abstracts away all of those issues that EOA wallets have. So it's a smart contract. So you have a smart contract that lays on top of your EOA wallet. So that way that does a lot of things for us, right? So things like bundling. So you can take all those different transactions that we just talked about were such a pain, and you can kind of compress them into one and make that one transaction. EOA wallets can't do that. Another thing that it does is like MPC technology. So in Web 2, if you forget your password, you hit a button and you get an email and you click a link and then you can recover your bank account or whatever it may be. In crypto, you lose your keys, it's gone, right? So MPC allows us to shard your private key into different sections, right? So you could do something like one part of the shard is a Facebook account. Another part of the shard is linked to your iCloud. Another part of the shard is a family member who has some sort of access to that shard. And so traditionally what you'll have is like a 3 out of 5 signature or a 5 out of 9. So if you were to ever lose your keys, those components can come together so that now you're able to recover that private key and regain access to your funds. Something that has wrecked many crypto users, especially early ones. Another big one is gas fees. So EIP 4337 allows for paymasters, which allows a wallet or really any protocol, they can kind of subsidize the gas for what you're doing. It's my belief that gas fees are going to be one of the biggest hindrances to, onboarding new users to DeFi, right? So to me, what Rainmaker is doing is creating a Robinhood type experience for the average user. You're not going to get the next million or billion users into DeFi with 39 steps and $30 in transaction fees all across the way. It's going to take people like Rainmaker kind of using this technology to really simplify it for the next generation.
Yeah, that's totally key. the thing you just said there about gas fees and how we onboard the masses into DeFi, into NFTs, into Web3, I guess I'll say loosely. I just literally right before this call, I minted 2 NFTs and on OpenSea. And they were from a project of a woman who I have met on LinkedIn. Her and her husband, they're like basically teaching their kids all about blockchain, tech, AI, and their kids are young. I think they're like 10 and 12. They had created an NFT project on OpenSea, and I just minted 2. And each one was like $20, but each gas fee for each transaction, because I couldn't bundle them like you're talking about, was $10. So imagine buying your home for $500,000, but paying $250,000 in closing fees. That's what I just did. So talk to me now about, you've explained about why no fees and, or, how it works with the new upgrade that Ethereum has and how it's more like a smart contract. Staying on the fees, is that one of the bigger selling points to hopping on Rainmaker for someone that is a DeFi degen and maybe buys a bunch of crap coins or whatever every month, or does, is minting stuff or whatever? Is that one of the biggest sells that you have with people? Because I could imagine you could be saving hundreds of dollars monthly.
Yeah, and I would say for your DeFi native people, that's probably one of the bigger benefits. So just today, we integrated with EgenLayer, and everyone on Twitter is like, yeah, it cost me $70 to stake. It cost me $70 to stake. And it's like, well, over a Rainmaker, it would have been totally free. And me being a DeFi degen, like especially during a bull run, there's days I might be doing 40 or 50 transactions in a day. And so, yeah, that really starts to add up. And, I think the important thing to know is it's not like a SEX, like a centralized exchange. Because most people are going to look at this and be like, well, the only way you can actually do that is because, we own the tokens and we're swapping it internally for you or something like that. That's not true at all. So it is a self-custody wallet. I believe a lot in that, but those fees are actually paid by the wallet. There's a lot of reasons for that. So protocols have they need for more users to come into their system. And so because they need their TVL up, and like once they're on those chains or they're using certain protocols, the swap fees and the different ways that they generate money makes sense to them. But that initial getting in is one of the biggest barriers to entry.
Yeah, for sure. And that's actually, you touched upon one of the biggest things, I think, because recently, and you already talked about the sharding of the seed phrase, because as you know, recently Ledger came out and they were basically trying to create a mass adoption product, which said, hey, if you lose your seed phrase, which people do all the time, even very veteran degens and people who've been around crypto for more than a bull and a bear, right? They came out and they got roasted. And now this is where I'm really curious to ask you, before we talk about Rainmaker's actual self-custodial wallet, where do you think they went wrong in that? Because I think it was a messaging and a communication issue. Because I actually don't think it's as big as everyone thought. And now, obviously, it's been a month now and no one even talks about it, right? People still have all of their stuff on a ledger. So when you guys saw that, you as a marketer for somebody else that's doing, for a company that I believe it's a hot wallet, right? It's going to be
That's correct.
Yeah. What were the lessons that you learned from seeing that roll out for as far as communication and messaging?
Right. So you kind of touched on it. I really think it's a messaging and branding issue. So I think the crypto community sees Ledger as a hard wallet, right? Like this is for holding your coins to yourself. Nobody can touch it versus we're, like you said, a hot wallet and we serve a different purpose. So I think it's like anything else. As we onboard the next million users to DeFi, there's going to be different use cases. Grandma cannot have 12 words that she has to keep or she's going to lose her life fortune. There are people who are going to need that. And so I think it's, we are this, they are that, and they just really kind of missed that really hard. But like you said, no one's talking about it a month later. So what did it actually do?
Yeah, I mean, crypto Twitter, DeFi Twitter it's like Dory from Finding Nemo. People forget stuff literally in days. It's actually quite funny for me to watch sometimes. And So let's talk about the self-custodial wallet aspect. And there's an image on the website that I'm currently looking at, and help me through this. It's a triangle and it says social and it has an email icon. Then there's an arrow that goes over to the two-factor authentication, and it looks basically like a Google Authenticator or something like that. Then there's another arrow that goes down to biometric scan, and all of those connect, right? Those are the 3 points of the triangle. So when I log into my wallet, I'm going to need to do what to get in? And then what if I forget my password?
Yeah, so what that photo actually represents is, like we were talking about earlier with the MPC technology, the ability for your private key to be broken up into several different parts. So it can be biometrics, it can be your Facebook account, it can be a relative, it can be your iCloud. So all of those different things can come together to form your private key so that you can recover that account. Rainmaker doesn't use Face ID or anything like that right now. But yes, you would use like an email and then your private key to access currently.
In the event that you forgot your passcode or however you get into the app when you use it day to day. Okay. That's super cool. I've been seeing a lot of new tech come out, and I actually, when I was at Consensus, I got an Arculus. That was months ago. I still haven't used it because I have a Ledger and a Trust wallet, and I'm definitely going to play with Rainmaker. Would you say that Rainmaker, if we're talking about the grandma and her life savings, I feel like Rainmaker isn't made for someone who's just trying to stack sats or put Ethereum away for 20 years down the line. It feels more like an app that has really good security that you can feel super great about leaving your stuff on, like it were a Ledger. I'm just going to brand align you with Ledger. I don't think that's a bad thing, but you can use it day to day like MetaMask. That's what I'm picking up. Is that right?
To a degree, yes. So there are limitations within account abstraction that are currently being worked through. So depending on different settings and ways that other protocols are coded, they may or may not be able to use an account abstraction wallet versus your EOA. It's signing a signature and you interact with it. Those things will come in the future, but yeah, so it is safe for your average user. It's not for the person who just wants to hodl Bitcoin and it's tucked away in their treasure and they'll never touch it. Really it's about interacting in the same way you would like a Robinhood, being able to look at your options list and be able to interact with that in just a very seamless mobile experience. Think about that, but interacting with various DeFi protocols where it's like, I want to stake my ETH in Lido and do this other transaction, and it all just happens seamlessly all in one, where you're not having to do all those other things.
Yeah, I think anything in Web3 as a product or service that can cut down on steps, i.e. friction, i.e. people bailing out, is a great product that's primed for mass adoption. So that's great. And one of the other things I saw when I was kind of like looking at Rainmaker and really trying to figure out where you guys are positioning yourself in the market was you have a Coinbase integration, which I think is super cool. And I run a live show with a couple other guys called Not Crypto Bros, and we went down a rabbit hole the other day where we were basically just saying that we think Coinbase is the government's pick, et cetera, et cetera. And because BlackRock already owns a bunch of them, BlackRock's probably going to use them as their prime to get Bitcoin directly from miners, all this other stuff. It seems like Coinbase is really well positioned to not only make it through, survive the bear, but definitely thrive from a standpoint of longevity. Is that why you guys chose Coinbase, or was there another reason as far as like, you look around the landscape of centralized exchanges, right? SEX is like, all right, who are we going to perform with? Was that you guys kind of chose that pony as the one that's going to win? Or was there another reason as far as the integration?
Yeah, so there's several ways that you can on-ramp into Rainmaker, Coinbase being one of them. At the end of the day, it's just about making it easy, right? So we have Coinbase, we have Sardine, we have a couple other ones down the line that's coming. We actually have a web app that just started, so you can actually connect right to your MetaMask and transfer those funds over. But yeah, it's like you said, Coinbase is here to stay. And if you want to have easy access to a wallet, I think that's a no-brainer for me.
I saw that, and then what I said to me was these people who are building Rainmaker, they're on Twitter, right? They have their finger on the pulse, because I've come across other projects that I see, and they're tying themselves to chains that I think have passed, or they're tying themselves to exchanges, whether they're SEXs or DEXs, that I just don't think have any more clout, or they just don't have any more energy, or like you were saying, TVL. So I think that that's a super smart play. And I actually want to ask you about that because on the website, it says the web app is coming soon. This is just a curiosity. Why did you launch on mobile before web? When I feel like most people I know that are doing anything with actual money are using the web just from the overall interface and you can see more.
Yes, so Rainmaker can exist across any platform. Mobile was just the most obvious. Everyone used their mobile phone. If you're talking about users in Africa or some of these other countries, they don't have a web browser. So mobile first is definitely the way to go. It will come a day. So we're actually about to integrate with Wallet Connect so that you can connect to any protocol you want to for the most part. But those are just things that we needed to get up front for that really seamless user experience.
Perfect. Yeah. And, we've kind of talked about your personal history, your personal background, how you got into crypto, how you also made it into Rainmaker, where Rainmaker is right now. We've got no gas fees. We've got really nice security. We've got good on-ramps from very well-known centralized exchanges. Moving forward, and you just called out Africa, and you and I are both currently in Latin America. And I say to anyone all the time that Latin America and Africa are going to lead the way as far as crypto adoption and building on chain and doing different stuff, especially with like Lightning Network and all these other things that are just easy to mass adopt. When you guys look ahead, where are you now as far as demographic globally, and where do you want to be? Is there, and because I talk to people all the time that are like, we're just looking at BRICS. Like, we're exclusively looking at Brazil and India. That's the only two markets we're in. So when you guys, where are you now as far as your demographic percentage, and where do you want to go? Or is there a market that maybe would seem non-traditional and traditional finance that seems so ripe for Web3 and crypto?
Currently, I would say our two biggest markets are the United States and Japan. Japan tends to be very early adopters, and we did some promotions there that just worked out really well for us. From my personal point of view, it's still to be determined where Rainmaker gets traction across the globe. But I'm a big believer in the South America and Africa theory. As money gets debased across the globe, there's going to be people who want access to crypto, to USDT, USDC, if not Bitcoin. They'll at least want those things. And I think that those are going to be some of the leading nations over the next, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Currently in Colombia, and I know you're in Mexico. And Colombia is just, and I haven't been to Mexico in a while. Colombia is really leaning into a couple different apps, which basically, they're not like, it's so weird. And I was at the bank today, literally trying to get onboarded into the traditional finance system in Colombia, which, let me tell you, I would rather do 1,000 other things in life. And they now have these apps, and I wonder if they have in Mexico too, where they're like, she literally called it a digital wallet today at the bank. And I said, okay, well, now that I have this, is there a routing number and an account number? Because I'd love to be able to send US dollars to it. She's like, no, it doesn't exist like that. It sits on top of like, basically it sits on top of like the base layer. It's like an L2 or an L3. So anyways, the populace here has already wrapped their mind around when you're going to pay for a taxi, you're going to pay for food, you're going to leave a tip, you're going to go to the bodega to get water. You're just going to scan a QR code, or you're going to send them my phone number because it's all back to your phone number. And I see that all the time. And I'm like, the leap to get into crypto is going to be so much smaller, at least in Colombia, and I'd love to hear about Mexico, than it is going to be, I think, in the United States. Even though we do have products like Venmo and Cash App and other things like that, but even those are still private companies that, I think there's just more layers there. So and I know we're getting away from Rainmaker, but I do think that this is part and parcel of the mass adoption conversation. What's going on in Mexico that leads you to believe that maybe Mexico may be ahead of other nations in adoption, especially maybe the United States?
Yeah, I mean, half the places I go here don't take a credit card. Why? Because the central bank said that they can't. And so, that's the beauty of Bitcoin. That's the beauty of what we're doing. Anybody can spin up a wallet. Anybody can participate in the world economy. Anybody can send money end to end in under 10 minutes with nobody who can tell them no. And it happens to me even in the United States. Like, I've had PayPal accounts shut down and Venmo accounts shut down because I sent too much money or whatever it is. And no one can tell me I can't send Bitcoin. And so I think that the countries where that's most prevalent is where it's going to be a really big deal.
I'm glad you brought up Bitcoin. I couldn't agree more. And I don't know if I could see this on the website when I was looking at, does the wallet support Bitcoin?
It does not. So it's EVM chains. So Avalanche, Arbitrum, Ethereum, Polygon, any of the EVM chains we accept. But what we're building isn't really a Bitcoin wallet. It's for DeFi.
For sure, for sure. I just figured I'd ask because I know that there's Bitcoiners that are listening to this. They're like, wait, no fees? Wait, I can do this. Wait, it's got better. It's like a hot wallet, but it has like, cold storage security features. So I figured I would just shout that out. Do you want to take time now and share where people can get in touch with you, learn more about Rainmaker? I know you're basically running the Rainmaker Twitter, so they can also find you there. Do you want to shout out where people can learn more about Rainmaker?
Find us on Twitter. The app is currently live in the App Store, but you have to have a code in order to access it right now. So if you want to go try out the Rainmaker app, go to the Google Play Store or the App Store, search Rainmaker Finance, and then the code you want to use is Rainmaker Friends in all caps, and you'll be one of the first people to try out the app as we roll it out.
Okay, cool. And then the website, is that rainmaker.nyc?
That's correct. So if you go to rainmaker.nyc, you'll be able to see our landing page and kind of learn more about us. If you want to check out the developer docs, it's at the bottom. So you can kind of learn more about account abstraction and some of the behind the scenes stuff. And we're also very active in Discord. So, from the website, go to Discord. If you have any questions, if you have any troubleshooting that you need help with, we're live in there every day.
That's great. Chris, this has been wonderful. I'm going to leave a bunch of links down below, including Rainmaker Friends for those that are interested to download it today from the Google Play or the App Store. Thanks a bunch for hopping on. And, if you're ever in Colombia, look me up.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thanks for checking out this episode of More Than Blockchain. And to get in touch with Chris and or learn more about Rainmaker, go ahead and check out this episode's show notes. I'm going to leave a bunch of links there, so check those out. As always, please follow us on social media at More Than Blockchain. And if you don't do so already, go ahead and follow us on YouTube where there's exclusive content. And if you enjoyed this episode, please go ahead and share it with a friend, family member, or colleague. Thanks again for checking out this episode of More Than Blockchain, and I'll see you next time.